everybody, and welcome to a new series. And this is going to be every week, and it's going to be my reviews and news. That's what I've decided, because saving all the books till the end of the month to do a review. Sometimes when you've read a lot of books, that's a lot all at once, and I think it's better to do a bit of a review when it's fresh in your mind. And so I'm going to either do this on a Friday or a Saturday, depending on what I've got, hopefully. And so give you an update of what I've been reading in the week. Can you hear my throat? Sorry. It's a bit hoarse today. And also some news, bookish, literature news, things that's going on, what's coming out, that sort of thing. Yeah, thought that'd be quite interesting. Let me know what you think down below. See if you think this is going to work. We'll give it a try anyway. I just want to show you my latest stationery. Beautiful, just appreciate that lovely sparkly cover. Unicorns ain't my homework. I've had this series before. They're from Sainsbury's, which is a supermarket here in Britain. They have fabulous stationery. So yeah, love that. So what have I been reading this week? Well, I started off the new year, I was halfway through a book, and this was something called The Betrayals by Fiona Neill, and I'll add a picture in here because this is something that I read on my e-reader. This was kindly sent to me by the publisher for a review. And I know that this is already out, but I've only just got round to doing a review on it. This is a family drama, and the premise of this book is about two families that, they've both got two children each, both the same age group, growing up all together. So you know what it's like if you've got families, you tend to if the kids are friends, you tend to, meet up at each other's houses and etc. And these two families go away on holiday together, and there's nothing new in it. A little bit of the usual, There are some of the usual tropes in here, and whatever happens whilst on holiday, these two families end up splitting up. And for the basic story and the plot, I didn't think it was anything all that special or that new. However, I did give this 4 stars because there were some really good characterisations in here. I especially liked 2 of the children from one family, and it started off when they were younger, teenagers, and then the story progresses to how this is still affecting them in adulthood. And the girl, bless her, what's happening in the family suddenly triggers a really what's the word I want to say? I should know this as a medical person, shouldn't I? She develops OCD at its worst stage, at its worst symptoms, the highest level of symptoms, and I felt that this was a really good portrayal of that. I liked how it discussed what it was like going on from really when she was a young teenager going up to her early 20s. This was still affecting her intermittently. Various triggers set it off, so I thought that was well done. And her brother excuse me, her brother ended up being a medical student, and he handled it in different ways, and that was interesting to see. All 6 of them, yeah, 6, handled this very differently. So I gave it 4 stars because there was some beautiful writing in here. It was well written, although, as I've said, it's quite tropey, but lovely characterisations, some nice, well developed characters, especially 2 children. The 2 children on the other side of the family, I would have liked more development of them. They were a bit nondescript. You could take them or leave them, really. So I would have liked more development of the rest of the characters, but for how they particularly portrayed OCD and the support that she got from her brother, then I upped it to 4 stars. So yeah, so that's the Betrayals, Fiona Neal. So I finished that off first couple of days. Then next, this has got a bookmarking because David's reading this one now. The Dark Vineyard. This is the second one in the Bruno Chief of Police, and Martin Walker's the author. Now, going back to last year, I did feature book 1, Bruno Chief of Police, as a cosy crime. It's not a cosy crime, really, I wouldn't say. And I didn't read too much of it, but thought, oh, I'm not getting into this, and I DNF'd it. And David started the series and really enjoyed it, and so that sort of piqued my interest towards the end of last year. I wanted something that was going to reread and you know, try and see if I liked it. And I did, actually. Surprisingly, once I got past the bit where I DNF'd, I started getting into the characters. It's featured in a lovely town called Saint-Denis in France, and I then decided that we'd get the next 2 in the series. So Dark Vineyard book 2. Yes, I think this series is developing fine. I'm really enjoying the characterisation of Bruno, and yeah, he's a good character. There are quite a few interesting characters. So don't expect fast-paced plot. It's not fast-paced. I think it's that, yes, there is a crime developing there. There's some mystery there. You know, gets the old brain cells thinking a little bit, but not a hard crime to crack. However, I think where this is going to be a good series is characterisations. And, you know, having been to France a lot, and you go along the street and there's various characters, and you know, really old elderly French gentlemen all sat round the town square playing boule and having the old Van Blanc. Yeah, I'm starting to really enjoy that. So I gave that 3.75 stars. Not quite enough to be a 4-star for me, but yeah, starting to develop nicely. The next one, The Mother. This is by Yvette Edwards, and I went into this thinking that, oh yeah, it'll be an easy read, nothing of a great substance. That's the postman. Shh, shh, good boy. I think he frightens our postman, you know. He's like, barks like a great big guard dog. Yes, where was I? Yeah, so I went into this, I thought it'd be a nice easy read. I don't think it'd be anything of great substance. And I have to say it was wonderful. I gave it 5 stars. Very emotional read. It's this particular mother, he's gone rushing off now, look, to fetch the post. This mother, the mother in this is about to go to a court case. Her son was stabbed, brutally murdered, and it's all the emotions that she's been through. It's about 8 months since her son was murdered. Her husband, he's acting or reacting, shall we say, in a different way. Everybody feels grief in different ways. And especially, it must be horrendous to go through having a child murdered. So he acts totally different, but she doesn't entirely feel that she has the support. And as a mother myself, I just went through every single emotion. And it's, you know, it's not just about everything to do with this family and how it's affected them. It also brings into discussion gang crime, And it's quite frightening that gang crime is on the increase, I suppose all over the world, but especially here in the UK. And I think even New Year's Eve, you know, three young people lost their lives going out for a drink in London, were stabbed. You know, it's quite worrying. And I like how the story develops because it includes how people are dragged into gangs. You know, they don't want to be there, but they're dragged in for whatever reason. And also, you know, wrong place, wrong time, you know, a gang could kill you. So it was an amazing book, very emotional. So well worth a read, The Mother, Yvette Edwards. Then the one I just finished last night, and this is Saving Grace by Jayne Green. Now, you'll those of you that watched one of my posts last week, the latest bookshelf, this was at the back of one of my shelves. I'd forgotten I'd got it, and I was ranting and raving and saying, do you know what? What's the title? You know, it's all about the author's name in big lights, and you know, having a bit of a jest about it and saying you can't hardly find the title. So the really strange thing is, because it had been brought to my attention, I thought, I'm going to read this. And I thought, I'm going to read this, and I'm probably not going to like it because it's already annoyed me. Having the cover already had annoyed me, which is silly, really. And you know what? I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was nearly a 5-star for me. And there was only a little bit, which I'll go on to in a minute, which annoyed me, which just took that edge off it being a 5-star. It's in the genre of chick-lit, and you know, it's not something that I usually read. Occasionally I will, for you know, everybody has their own things that they enjoy. But this has got so much substance to it. The writing is very well developed. I believe Jayne Green, I've not read any of hers, but has written many pieces of work, very obviously well crafted. And it's the premise is about Grace, and she grew up, was born in the UK, went over to America, married a very famous, older, successful author, got quite a glamorous life, doesn't need for anything, she's got one daughter. But it's quite an abusive relationship. It's not physically abusive, but it's mentally abusive. She's not particularly treated all that well. And he's not an easy person to live with. Bit of a prima donna. He's got an assistant who is an older lady that's been with the family for years, but she has to leave due to family illness. So they take on a new assistant. Very dowdy, very doesn't look as if she could do the job, but in actual fact is amazing at organising them all. And she slowly takes over their life, and that's not a spoiler because they say that in the beginning. So I'll not say too much about that, but what it does cover in an amazing way is bipolar disease. Covers what we used to call years ago when I first started nursing was hypomania disorder, when people have very high moods, when they're in that state at its worst, they, you know, go off and spend thousands and thousands of pounds they don't have, and then they go to the depths of despair where they're suicidal. It's a very, very difficult illness, and it can be very well controlled nowadays, you know, with amazing medications and treatments, so people, you know, can live fairly stable lives. But this goes back to the past, and it's so well portrayed. And this Grace spends all her life really being concerned that she's inherited this, and you know, this becomes a big feature of the story. So just have to take my glasses off. I've lost my reading glasses, you know, I don't know where I've put them. So I just want to read this little passage out that this is you know, domestic violence in a insidious way. Thank God, she thinks. Thank God my husband is in a good mood. These flashes of Ted at his most charming. No traces of anger or irritation or disdain are what Grace lives for. So often of late he has been at his worst, and Grace is beginning to feel more and more like she is walking on eggshells. And yet, in moments like these, it is easy to remember why she married him in the first place. Easier still to imagine this may be the turning point, that this good mood may last for days, even though it never does. So, I liked that. That was really good. And I just want to also, if I may, read this section out, because I think this gives everybody a real understanding. This is when she goes to see her mother, and her mother was never treated properly for this disorder, and you know, I think this says it all. Grace said nothing when she walked into the room. She should not have been shocked at what her mother looked like, but nothing could have prepared her to face this woman who gave birth to her, who was now almost unrecognisable. Sally was sitting in the front row of chairs facing a television, holding the remote control, zapping quickly through television channels, never settling on one for more than a few seconds, much to the frustration of the 4 other women in the room. Grace stood off to the left, devastated at the toll living on the streets had taken on her mother. She had remembered her as a young, pretty, normal-looking, if not always normal acting, but this version of her mother was years older than Grace would have expected, and so much bigger than when she had last seen her almost a year ago. Her pretty features were masked by doughy cheeks and a double chin. If Grace hadn't known it was her mother, she would have walked right past her. Unexpectedly, Sally laughed. Grace saw her teeth, one missing on each side. She looked exactly as she was, a toothless, homeless woman with a glitter in her eye and a force field of energy around her that had a buzz that was almost palpable. Grace remembered this buzz, this energy from her childhood. This was when her mother would go on huge shopping binges or drive Grace miles from home on a quest for some sort of treasure. It was exhilarating being in her company, and exhausting, and completely unsafe. Grace never felt she was in the company of a responsible adult during those times, would pray that nothing would go wrong. "Mum," Grace ventured after Sally paused to look at Grace. "I know who it is," says Sally. "Are you coming in? What are you doing standing in the doorway? You look like I used to do years ago. I might not have seen you for a while, but I'd know you anywhere. I thought you were too busy in America to bother with me. I know, you're living it up in New York. What are you doing here? Nice of you to come and see me, though. I'm surprised you're not off with your other mother." She gave a gap-toothed grin before handing the remote to a woman sitting next to her and standing up. "Don't just stand there," Sally said, walking towards Grace. "Give your old mum a hug." What had I expected? She thought. A Waltons-esque reunion, the two of us flying into each other's arms, tears of gratitude and joy rolling down each of our cheeks. Well, yes, she had expected something like that. "Come and see my room," Sally disengaged, tugging on Grace's arm. "I have a picture of you on my wall." "You do?" Grace was momentarily thrilled, reaching the room to find an old photograph of Grace as a child with Sally, one she didn't even know her mother still had, blue tacked to a faded yellow walls of a room that contained 3 iron single beds and 3 lockers, each carefully locked. "See," Sally said proudly, pointing out her room. "There you are, there I am. Not aging so well, but I'm not running around America without a care in the world, am I?" "You look well," said Grace. "I've spent a long time hoping to find you." I didn't know about this hostel. I'm glad I know where you are. I'm here for the time being with all my worldly possessions. Do you want to see? There was nothing of value in there. A tennis ball, mishmatched socks, an oversized filthy sweater with holes all over it, a plastic doll with a missing leg, a green plastic bowl, a child's plastic tiara with one remaining red gemstone stuck in the middle, a lipstick, a scarf, trainers that looked like 3 sizes bigger than Sally would wear, and an empty plastic bottle that had once contained Coke. That's quite a collection you have there, says Grace. I know, says Sally, feeling very proud. So, yes, really loved this book. As we go along with the book, it's really thrilling. It's a good mystery. I only took the half a star off because all her friends kept saying, oh, I knew you weren't bipolar. Oh, you couldn't possibly have had bipolar. You couldn't possibly, Grace, have been like that. That then annoyed me because everything else was fantastically done, sensitively done. Better put my glasses back on. But I just felt that was a bit, yes, that was great. Something had happened and she wasn't suffering from that mental illness. But there's so many people out there that do. And, being treated for it and are suffering as well. And that's the only thing. I don't think it was meant in a nasty way. I think it was, oh, well, thank goodness you haven't got it. So you haven't got to suffer everything that comes with that mental illness. But it just could have been written a little bit more sensitively. And that was my only gripe. So, yeah, please read that. Hopefully, you'll pick that up. So that's what I've read this week. Now to the news. Let's have a look what's happening. Now there's a new book coming out in 11th of this month, and this is called Lullaby by Leila Slimani. And this Eric the Lonesome Reader, he's got a copy of this from the publisher, and I think Eleanor Reads Books was showing it too. So it has been seen on BookTube. I've pre-ordered it because I really like the premise of it, and that's coming out this month, so look that up and see if you fancy the look of that. Also, what I want, if everybody may not be aware, that Kazuo Ishiguro has received the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2017. And if you go on to faber.co.uk, there's actually a podcast on there about that and him speaking about receiving this prize. And All That Remains is one of his books that I thoroughly enjoyed, and so well received there. There's some new poetry piece of work coming out by Simon Armitage soon called Pearl, and I love Simon Armitage. We love his poetry. We watched a programme on the TV about it. I think I mentioned it last year, where he goes across the, was it Pennines? No, it wasn't the Pennines, I can't think now. I don't know if it was even the Cleveland Way, can't think. And he's engraved some poetry in rocks along the way. Really fascinating. If I can find it, I'll link it down below. And for those of you that are interested in non-fiction regarding nature, Faber and Faber are bringing out a lovely piece of work called Owlsense by Miriam Darlington. That comes out on the 15th of February. And I quite like the look of that. My youngest son Joe used to be fascinated with owls. We used to have to buy him everything to do with owls. So that looks a beautiful book that's coming out there. And then the last piece of news is that the Rachel Cusk is bringing out a third title in a trilogy that she's written. Now, I was kindly sent these from Vintage last year, and so I've got Outline and Transit, and the new one is called Kudos, and that's coming out in not till May, but I thought I'd mention it in case you want to have a look at the first 2 books. It's like a series of short stories about one character. It's a bit likened to a bit like Cloud Atlas in the sense that I think he's got all sorts of different stories in there, and then they all culminate to mean something together. And although I didn't particularly like Cloud Atlas, as many you know. So yeah, with Rachel, her work's very similar. So yeah, if you've already read book 1 and 2, and book 3 is coming out called Kudos, and yeah, nothing else to tell you much about. I've enjoyed a lovely buddy read with Cheryl from CR Flames Fan over in America, which is I'm saying America again. Canada. Sorry, Cheryl. You'll laugh again. I always say Canada. Oh, forget it, Catherine. Forget it, Kath. My lovely friend who is in Calgary. We've had a good buddy read anyway, and that was the first in the series of The Railway Detective by Edward Marston. A good cosy crime, giving it 3.5. We thoroughly enjoyed that. I've been sent a lovely book by my best buddy, Kerry Ann from Woman vs. Books, and this is The Grantchester Mysteries, The Shadow of Death by James Runcie. I've not come across those before, and she sent me a beautiful bracelet for Christmas. You can see that. So I know that's not bookish news, but I wanted to say thank you. So, hope you've enjoyed that. That's the books I've been reading this week. As we go on, we'll have some more news, what's coming up in the publishing world, and see you again next week with another instalment. So bye for now.